you want, what you want, what you gonna do when Sheriff John Brown come for you? Tell me.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? You're listening to the I'm Just Sayin show with Justin Werley, and my guest today is Chief of Police for Northern Berks Regional Police, Ryan Horner. Thanks for being on the show, dude.
Hey, thanks, buddy. I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, okay, we're not going to act like we've never talked before. We've known each other for a lot of years. What do you think? The last time we really hung out as a group, I think was probably 2004 during the Eagles Super Bowl run.
Oh, yeah, that was a good time.
Yes. If people aren't aware, Chief Horner makes a mean boilo. And every Eagles score, we used to take a shot of Boilo and sing the fight song. And by the end of the game, since we actually went to the Super Bowl, we were pretty fucked up. So anyway, law enforcement. Being in law enforcement, I've worked in corrections. Right out of college. You know, my 2-year degree. I worked at Berks County Youth Detention when that was a thing. And I went then from there to the Children's Home of Reading. Then I went and worked for a private company in Pittsburgh called the Academy, and that was by far the worst place I've ever worked. So that's dealing with the juvenile end of it. I wanted to get into it because I was that piece of garbage kid at one point that I just was lucky enough to not get caught. So I felt like I could maybe change some things at the juvenile level. You find out you can change maybe one or two, and the rest are still going to be pieces of garbage. But you went right into the police academy. What made you want to do that?
Well, what happened was I grew up around it. My dad was in law enforcement. He retired from Kutztown University as assistant chief of police and moved on to the borough of Kutztown as a police officer. But I grew up around it, and I really wanted to be a paramedic. That's what I wanted to be. And there was just no money there. And graduated high school as a paramedic assistant out of Lock Haven Hospital. I was there probably maybe about a year or so, and then I wanted more money and went into a factory job and hated it. And,
I know. I work in a factory job, and, well, I'm not going to say I hate it because if anybody listens, I love it. But wink, wink.
But no, it just wasn't for me, and I had the opportunity to go into the police academy. And I was 19 years old, applied, went through Indiana University of Pennsylvania.
Oh, so you had a great time while you were there, too.
Well, somewhat, because I started out part-time, and it was in Lock Haven. That's where I was born and raised and grew up.
Yeah.
And so it was like, hey, let's do it. So I applied and started when I was 19, and I got laid off because I worked for Champion Part Rebuilders. Okay. And when I got laid off, I ended up switching over and went to the full-time police academy out at IUP, which was a good time.
Yeah.
And ended up graduating when I was 20. Became a cop when I was 20, and my first job was in Mill Hall.
So, I'm not familiar with that area. What kind of area is that like?
Mill Hall is a little borough up in Clinton County. It's between State College and Lock Haven. It's very close to Lock Haven. And it was a very small department, and I worked there for a few months, and then I had the opportunity. I got hired at Kutztown University Police Department. Okay. Worked there for just a year and got hired with Maiden Creek Township Police Department. That's when I was 21 years old.
Wow, you moved pretty quick.
Yeah, and I haven't left.
Right.
It came from being Maiden Creek Township Police Department to Maiden Creek Onalani Joint Police Department, and then to Northern Berks Regional Police.
So what's the difference so you're starting out and you're in a small town atmosphere. I'm assuming like you're not really, like as far as radius goes, you're not dealing with a ton of different people. Small towns here, I think of Topton, Pennsylvania. I think of like the town of Kutztown, take the college out of it.
That was what I was working in. Mill Hall Borough was small, it was a small community, not a lot happening,
And then you moved to University Police, where it's nothing but drunk college kids all year round. Well, except for summer, but still. Like, do you have to kind of change your style and approach to things there? Or do you, because, small town police, you kind of go, hey, Jerry, please don't do that. Now you're dealing with people you have no idea who they are. They're changing every semester. Does that change how you approach people?
Not really. You got to understand, I was young. I mean, when I started, went through the academy 19, graduated when I was 20. I couldn't even drink. The graduation, class, everybody was drinking, and here I was drinking soda. That kind of sucked.
Right.
But really, it was going from a small town to another small town, because Kutztown isn't big.
It's not a big town. I'm just strictly when you bring the university into it.
Yeah, but, Kutztown University was college kids. I fit in well. I could communicate with them because I was them, basically in reality, just that I had a job and, being a police officer, and they were students.
But that, I mean, at least for me going through school, before I got older, I looked at establishment differently than I do now. I looked at it like before I got into corrections. Like when I was a high school kid in my early days of college, I was very against what people say. Well, the man. Like I didn't want to. You couldn't tell me what to do. You weren't going to tell me. There was this guy's preventing me from doing this. He just wants to be all against kids and go give us a hard time because he's in charge and he wants to show his authority. I can imagine you being in that position of authority at a young age. Did you ever get looked at like, dude, you know what we're doing, leave us the hell alone?
Right.
Did you get a lot of pushback there?
Not too much. Back then it's a lot different than what it is now. I could just imagine me coming into law enforcement nowadays at 20 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, they would look at you as a kid like, what are you doing?
Right.
Because you're not mature enough, especially kids nowadays, forget it.
So would you say that there was a little more respect back in that day?
Yeah. A lot more respect.
Because they didn't care who you were, they saw the badge, they respected that to an extent, much more than they do these days.
Right.
Today, I mean, you see people, they don't give a shit.
No.
They don't care.
No, not at all. And it's sad.
It is sad. I mean, I got pulled over as a kid, white kid in the middle of a white town, and I'm terrified, oh shit. I just got pulled over, I'm in so much damn trouble, I'm going to be respectful, and it's kind of going out the window. What do you think caused that?
I think it's just society in general. It's everything, with social media to the news. News broadcasters, all they do is feed on the bad stuff. And what they do is, they'll make a small incident to a big incident and just to sell paper, the newspaper people out there, the editors and everything. They'll just drum up a story and try to make it, sounds so bad, and it's really not that bad, some things, but it's all different. Now people look, cell phones, we depend on cell phones. You can't even leave a cell phone behind. If you forget your phone, you're going nuts. What are you going to do? You drive back and get it. And it's all computer stuff anymore. Back growing up, as a kid, we didn't have these phones. We were always out riding bike, playing ball, playing football.
Outside constantly.
Exactly. Now kids nowadays, people, they all depend on their phones, computers. They don't want to go out and do stuff. They're body people, homebody people. That's
true. They say a lot of kids nowadays, that you see a lot of young kids wearing glasses nowadays, and it's because they're they haven't developed the far vision because they're never out of a bedroom in front of a video game screen or in front of their phone. They never went outside and had to look for anything. So at a young age, they're already developing, I don't know what, nearsighted? I mean, you can see near things.
Yeah, not much.
I don't have glasses. I haven't got it. But yeah, they say the effects on kids in general you're seeing it on a daily basis. I think they're softer in general too. But so you're a rookie cop, first year, and you're at Kutztown University. Now, are you? From what I've been told about being a police officer, when you start out, you usually get the shit shift. Was that the same thing at Kutztown University, or
no,
automatically night shift, or?
No, we worked rotating shifts, and I worked with one sergeant at the time, so I had a partner that I always worked with.
So you were never by yourself?
No.
Yeah.
You always had somebody to work with.
Now, is that still? Does that ever go away as you get more experience?
Oh yeah, I mean, whenever I ended up taking a job, then when I switched from Kutztown University Police to Maiden Creek Township Police, I was out on my own from almost the beginning,
really,
from the whole way through.
So what's that like? Is it kind of like taking training wheels off a little bit? You've been doing it, but shit, now it's just me.
Well, yeah, because they threw you out. Whenever I got hired there, I had this chief that worked permanent midnights. That's all he wanted because he had a canine dog, you know. Now you got to understand, back then there was only like 3 officers in a department. Now you're talking about almost 30 years ago. Right. So things have definitely changed. But it was just like taking the training wheels off a bike. You're out. You're gone. Like you're out on your own, and it's like it's a whole new world, you know. And being a rookie and being young, it's like a holy shit factor.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Like,
but
what was the first thing you had to do your first day on the job by yourself? What was the first interaction you had?
I think the first thing was a pretty bad motor vehicle accident that I had.
And you were the first one to arrive? And you had
and it was a bad accident. When I remember, it was actually a 222 and 73 in Maiden Creek Township, and involved the tractor trailer and everything, and there were injuries, and it was just a mess. And it was like, oh my God. And it was just me. And, you're talking 2 state highways there, 73 and 222, if people know where it's at. It was, it was just like an oh shit factor.
Yeah.
But, eventually, with working at Kutztown when I worked there, and then I was also working part-time for the borough of Kutztown. So that's where I got a lot of my training. So that's, I got to give credit to the Kutztown borough back then whenever I was hired part-time. I was working basically full-time hours, but, as a part-time status.
Right.
So, when you're dealing with college students and you're dealing with everything that took place because of being a college town, that's where I learned a lot. And then I just started getting very comfortable from there on out. And, from Maiden Creek Township, we went to Maiden Creek Onalani Joint Police Department, where we joined Onalani and Maiden Creek together.
Now, how does that go? Is there a lot of like ego going on there when 2 departments
No, actually, it was a very good, easy transition. We were all excited about it. We really wanted it to happen, and when it happened,
resources,
and you're making a bigger department. Plus it was more coverage area. You could expand out. You could learn a lot more, and that was the most exciting thing.
Okay. So, what did you end up? Did you go back to the partner system there, or were you still basically on your own once you?
Sometimes you were on your own, but there were a couple of times you would, have a partner that you'd be working with, especially at night shift.
Yeah.
And, we went just a few years, and then we ended up, making a new department called Northern Berks Regional Police, where Leesport Borough came in. And then it was totally, a different change because we had a lot more guys, and then we started having special fields, and that's where then I had moved on from a patrolman to a detective.
So how does that happen? How long were you a patrolman before you decided I want to take? Well, all you hear in the movies, I want to take the detective exam. Is that what it literally is? I want to do this and
actually
the opportunity.
Actually, I was the chief that was there asked me what I wanted to do, if I wanted to be promoted to a sergeant or a detective.
Okay.
Well, a sergeant would have gave me a rank and probably more money, but a detective, that was cool.
Yeah, it sounds way cooler.
And it was, and I always like to go out and catch the bad guys, and I said I'll do the detective's position. Plus, it was a permanent day shift job. I didn't have to work nights anymore. Didn't have to work weekends, so that was kind of a plus too. But like I said, I liked to do investigations.
Sure. So your chief asks you, "What do you want to do?" Now, what's the process to go through to get you there? I'm sure it's not just here's the job, or is it here's the job?
Well, it was, because I was a hammer back then. I was young. I wasn't afraid to work. I would dig for stuff. Try to solve like burglaries and thefts and things like that. And I was probably one of the most energetic officers out of the department, and I think that's why he came to me and asked me, which I was thankful for.
Sure.
And but I had to go through a lot of training.
Like what?
It was like I went through the 2-week FBI detective school.
What do they do to you there?
They trained everything. It was anything you needed to know about being a detective. It was homicide investigation, robbery investigation, processing crime scenes, interviewing and interrogation. You name it, it covered it in that 2-week period.
Right.
And
did they actually make you sit? You see okay, I'm going strictly movie based because I have no perverse things. But do they actually make you sit there and go through like intense interrogation so you feel what that feels like?
What we did was in that one class, they actually, with the interview and interrogation, they showed us videos.
Okay.
And then, we had mock, things like, what was really cool was when they were training us, they showed us what to look for, body language, language and all. So when you get trained on that and you watch, some of the, like, for instance, some of the interviews that, were conducted before, you could, easily tell when somebody was lying, telling the truth because of body language, how they answered, the question, how they relayed, things like that. So then what we did was during the class, there were 5 people that were pulled out, and here, one of them actually had a pen, and you had to pick out of those 5 people who actually had that pen. So you had to interview each individual to try to find out which one actually had the pen.
So besides, do you have a goddamn pen? What the hell are you asking these people?
Yeah, just, what you have to do, first of all, you try to determine if they're right or left-handed. Because if you're right-handed, when you lie, a right-hand person is normally going to look down to their left. If they're left-handed, they're going to look down to the right. It's all that. It's about, when somebody talks to you, if they're lying, 9 chances out of 10, they're not going to look straight at you in your face. There's going to be a lot of body language.
Right.
And it's all what you learn through your training. And that's what we had to use. So you had 5 people there, and you had to try to find out which one had this damn pen. So it's challenging.
If you're in an actual interrogation and you're interviewing somebody, sir, what hand are you? But do you give them a cup of something? So see which hand they reach with, or
what I do is I usually talk to them, and if I'm not sure, I'll say, here, can you write down your name, address, date of birth. I'll have them do that, and then I'll have them do like something else just to see what hand that they use.
Yeah.
But and that's not always true too, because
it's a generalization.
Yep. But then it comes into like body language. Just even how they. I went through a statement analysis, so I could ask somebody, here, give me a written statement. So then what I did was I looked at their written statement, and then you can pick out in a written statement, where there's deception.
Okay. Well, how the hell do you do that from writing?
Just because it's how you ask the question and you tell them to write it down, and then with their response, it's how they word it.
That's insane. I can't even.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's just.
Dude, how do you shut that off in regular life, out not being on the job? Like, how do you shut that off? Because I went through my criminal justice classes. It was funny because we just touched on that like a little bit, and I forget the instructor's name. He was in law enforcement. I can't remember his name, but he had a volunteer come up, and the first thing he did was he set a chair next to him, and he got real close to him.
Yep.
He wheeled right in, and the first thing the guy did was put his hands over his crotch, and he goes, why are you sitting like that? He goes, I always sit like this. He goes, you always cover your dick when you're talking to somebody? And that was his first example of body language. But he also made it clear, he's like, it'll drive you nuts if you try to do this with every person you talk to and meet.
Right.
Like, you won't trust anybody.
Correct.
So,
and you have to treat everybody the way you want to be treated too. Like when you just said, do you always, cross over like that, to cover your dick? That investigator was making him try to like crack a joke, make that guy feel comfortable.
Right.
Because if he's doing that, putting his hands across like that, or crossing his arms, that individual's closing up on the investigator. So you have to break him from being so like close, like meaning that I'm not going to talk. Get his arms that come down, because as soon as they come down and they open up, you have that person to where you need to talk to them, and 9 chances out of 10 they're going to communicate with you.
Why does anybody? Okay, wait, let me finish that though. Okay, so like if I really dove into that, I would use it every day with my bosses at work. I would use it with my employees at work. I would use it with my fiance. I would use it. I got to tell you, I have.
Yes. And it sucks. Like my chief. Previous chief, before I came chief, I used to catch him and I used to question him, and it's like, you're lying to me. You're not telling me the truth. He goes, get the office, it's like, but, I went through a lot of training, and that was one of my favorite things was interviewing and interrogation. You know, when you hear interrogation, it's not like what you see on TV that they're jacking somebody up. No, interrogation is when you're interviewing somebody, it's when you're talking to them. Interrogating is when you start raising your voice and you're letting them have it. Pretty much.
If you've ever watched the first 48. It's a lot of what you would see on there, I guess. You don't really watch TV, you said, but I'm assuming you've seen that show.
I do. You know, ever since now, I got, I'm actually sad to say I'm going through a divorce, and I met a girl through a class. It was a supervisory class. She's a lieutenant, Lehigh County Sheriff's Department. And, she likes watching, the first 48.
Right.
And when I go to visit her, she has that on, Where's Live PD, She's kind of like more newer in the law enforcement. Me, I don't even want to watch law enforcement.
Well, because you're watching work.
Well, I'm always at work,
Yeah.
It's like, and then being a detective, before becoming a chief, I was, moved from a detective to a detective sergeant. So, I've been doing detective work probably for about 24 years.
Right.
So I'm kind of burned out. Like,
Sure.
whenever I go home, I want to get the hell away from police work. I don't want to have to live police work while I'm at home. But when you do, I have watched 48 hours.
Right.
And it's what we do. When you watch that, that's real stuff. When you watch Live PD, that's what we do.
So when you, damn it, I had a question I wanted to ask you, but I don't remember what the hell it was. But
that's a sign of old age,
No, it's a sign of alcoholism.
Oh.
When I watch those shows, like you said, you were strictly day shift once you became a detective.
Right.
Those guys are all. It looks like they're all hours.
Well, it's because of you're in a bigger city. When you watch that stuff, they're not in a department like us.
Right.
Have I worked night shift as being a detective? Absolutely. But I was on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So you got a call at like 2 a.m. You were getting up and it said, hey, I got this thing. We need to go check that. You boom.
Say we had a robbery, or a burglary that was in progress or something like that, But they would call me. And if I felt that I had to go out, I would go out.
Yeah. So how do you do that and live your life and enjoy your life? Because any second, you're going out, for example, an Eagles playoff game, and what if you get a call?
And if hey, there's been times I'm human.
Yeah.
I drink beer. I love drinking beer.
Absolutely.
Love partying, and there has been times that I've been called and I'm saying, sorry, I can't come out. I've been drinking. And then I say, hey, contact a sergeant or, contact somebody else. Or, there's been times we ended up calling the Berks County District Attorney's Office, detective unit. And then they would come out and, they would have to process the scene and, help investigate. Right. But I was the type of person that, if I was drinking, I wouldn't go out. I'm just not that type of person. Could I have, if I had 2 beers or something like that? Yeah. But I was more conscious. I didn't want to do that.
Well, sure. One screw up then, and then everything's compromised, and it's a whole thing, and then you're in the paper for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
It's a whole big thing. So what's the difference between detective and detective sergeant? Is there anything?
Detective,
obviously rank, I would assume.
It's just rank. That's it. And then when I became the detective sergeant, they promoted me to a sergeant because they needed somebody to oversee criminal investigations. And so in our department, it was that officers, if they would end up getting a burglary or a theft or an assault, there were times that those officers could handle that incident instead of turning it over to, like, say, me.
Right.
So I oversaw all the criminal investigations. I would manage all the incidents. Make sure that the officers are doing their job right when it came to a criminal investigation or a criminal arrest, or help them with interviews and things like that. That's what's nice about our department. That we still only have one detective, and now it's Sergeant Bob Wood just got promoted to a detective sergeant. He was a sergeant, so it was basically just like a lateral, transfer. He's got the title now, detective sergeant, but he's still getting the same pay
the same
as a sergeant.
Responsibility though, a little
right.
bit. Yeah.
Right, and he was overseeing criminal investigations and all. So in our department, we only have one detective, but you go to some other departments like Coomer Township, Y Missing, Muhlenberg, Exeter. They have several detectives,
right?
Because they are a much bigger department, bigger area, more businesses, more retail, more fraud, and everything.
So, All right. How many cases generally is one detective? Since you have one detective, what's your average caseload like?
Back whenever I was a detective, I could have had easily from 20 to 40 some cases that I could have that's active at one time. And you say, how the hell can you do it?
I was about to ask you that. Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, it's impossible. You had to prioritize your cases.
Right.
And there was cases that I got to honestly tell you that was reported and it just basically got unsolved because you couldn't dedicate yourself, or it was to the point that you had no more information that you could go on.
Right,
so you basically left that case sit, hoping that
something would come in,
like through Crime Alert Berks County, or you get another criminal that did, like, say, a burglary or something, and hey, do you have any information on anything that happened in the county that you can help me out with, that I can help you?
Right.
So, and that's how we did it. That's how I did it. I solved a lot of cases for a lot of other departments. And I worked a lot of cases that weren't even mine, because whenever I was the detective, I also got sworn in through the district attorney's office as a county detective. Okay. So I had multi-jurisdiction. I had jurisdiction all over Berks County.
Yeah.
And which was,
that's
neat.
Gotta be kind of cool.
But it was a lot of work. But for more work, but you're not getting paid more money.
But at the end of the day, that looks pretty damn good, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, what it was rewarding. When you get a case, say a robbery, or a burglary, and people, got like things stolen that meant a lot to them, or say a robbery, somebody taken at gunpoint, and you don't have nothing other than that report, and you start working it, and then you find out a suspect, and then you're able to make an arrest and convict that individual. That's what's rewarding.
I can imagine because it doesn't happen at the snap of the finger. I mean, you're putting in all that time and effort, plus, the family mate or whoever it is gets, a little bit of relief because this person's not out there doing what they're doing, or could do it again to me. But yeah, I can see that. That's basically like, it's achieving many goals throughout your career, like, constantly.
Yeah.
That's a pretty damn awesome thing. What is one of the, I guess we'll start off on the light end of it. There's got to be some humor in this job.
There's been plenty. I could tell you stories.
That's why you're here.
Oh my God!
So, what are some of the things?
We were just talking about this. We just hired 3 new guys, and we had one of them that we just did his 6-month evaluation, and we were there. The 3 sergeants and him and I were in the office, closed door, and it's like, boy, we could tell you a hell of a lot of shit that we did when we were younger. Screwing with each other. Like, that, the one patrolman was working, so you would, call him on the phone. We had Nextels that you did the direct, yeah. So it's like, hey, where you at? What are you doing? And so you find out where he's at. Well, what you do is then you shut the lights off when you see where he's at, and you blow by him, and then he chases after you, and he's calling a pursuit in, and, and things like that. You screw with each other. It just, like, the biggest one was, my chief that just retired, and the one sergeant that's still there. They screwed me when I was young. They screwed me so bad it was unbelievable. I felt like a jackass. But anyways, what happened was...
How? What do you mean? What did they do to you?
Well, I was working night shift. I'm still young, okay? Yeah. And here what they did was they set me up that it was on one of the orchards. So they had the apple orchard and the apple homes, where the Mexicans and that would, stay.
Yeah.
And then they would go out and pick apples and everything. Well, here in that area, what they did was they set me up that it was suspicious activity, that, somebody was reporting something. Well, here I drove back the dirt lane to where the apple trees were, and here there was a flare lit in the road. Okay? And it's like, and I pull up and I said, somebody lit a flare, in the middle of the road. But then I said, but, there's cassette tapes. How the cassette,
the actual tape.
The tape itself.
Yeah.
And it was strewn through the trees and everything. And I'm thinking, somebody's screwing
Some
around.
Kids messing around, yeah.
Yep. So once I get out of the car, and they're watching me with binoculars, and they have the 2-way radios on another frequency. Well, here My chief that just retired, he was, I believe, maybe a corporal back then, or he could have even have been a patrolman. But anyways, contacted, another guy that was a police officer, just got off, and said, hey, Brian's out of the car, he's walking up to the flare. Well, what he did was, they worked on this so long, they had firecrackers, and they lit a pack of matches, and they had a cigarette, and the cigarette would burn down to the point that it would light the one match, and it would light all the matches, and then it would light off all the firecrackers. Well, Christ almighty, here I am, I get out of the car, and all at once, and I see flashes, I think somebody's shooting at me. I jump in the freaking car and I take off peeling out, and I'm getting on the radio calling for air priority that shots fired, and those guys hear it and they're keying up over me so that Berks radio, the 911 center, didn't hear me.
Yeah, is it freaking out?
Yeah, and they're going, unit calling, so here I am, and all at once, Scott, the one officer, was coming in the opposite direction, and he said, my eyes were so big and everything, and it was like, and I said, somebody's shooting at me. He's like, what? So we ended up going back. And the one guy that set off the fire, crackers and that, had all this set up. He's watching. He sees us pull up again. Watch as we get out. And I'm walking around because I said, listen, they're here. Somebody's here. It has to be kids or whatever. I don't know. But so we're looking around, and all at once, he has those shotgun shells that were like M80s that you shoot, and it goes on, and then bang. Well, he launched about 4 of them suckers, and I jumped. I pulled my gun out, and
God, lucky somebody didn't get fucking shot.
I know, exactly. I'm telling you, this is the shit that we did. They did to me. So
you went to church most days. You never participated in that.
No. So anyways, we ended up. It came out that I knew that they screwed with me, because then.
So what was your reaction when you found that out?
Oh, I was cursing them up and down.
I'm sure you weren't happy.
Oh no, I said, you guys wait, because paybacks are hell.
Yeah.
So we ended up then. We were good friends. I mean, listen, you can't do that.
Well, you don't do that to somebody you don't like, in my opinion.
What's that?
Okay, you're about to tell me I'm full of shit. I see it in your face. I don't do that type of thing to people that I don't care about. Like, if I care about you and I like you, that's what I do.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you'll know if I don't like it because I don't associate with it.
Right. But now I got to tell you, even if you like somebody today, you can't do that on the job anymore. Times have changed. Is police work fun? Yeah. But is it as fun as it was 30 years ago? Hell no.
Well, everybody's looking for that gotcha moment.
Well, it's the gotcha moment, but times changed. You have to watch your back anymore. You have to... it's just you're a lot more busier. Just lifestyle, just everything has totally changed. I mean, and it's getting worse and worse and worse.
Right.
And is it fun to come into work some days? Hell no. There's days that it's like I'm ready to retire. Which hey, I can retire in March, but I like the job. I like what I do. I'm glad that I got promoted. But things have changed. But going back to the fun days, it was fun, because what I did was I screwed with those guys back on days but we screwed around a lot, and we laughed, but you can't do that nowadays, because stuff that we did, and we would be fired.
You'd be done.
And even being a chief, I would have to say, listen, you screwed up and get some type of disciplinary.
Sure.
I wouldn't want to. Fire somebody, but you can't do it because of liability.
Sure.
That's the big thing, liability.
Absolutely. So you were about to tell me something else, though. You were talking about a chief. Was it a chief you had, or something like that? Before we got into what they did when they screwed you over, you said, See, that's a sign of old age.
Yeah,
you can't remember. You were saying how when you were younger, you got screwed over bad.
Oh yeah,
and then you were about to go into another story before that.
Oh yeah, because what happened was though, they screwed with me. So I'll get you back. Well, the one day they got me again. We went into what back then was Hess's Diner on 61.
Okay.
And 73. Well, I had to take a radio call, so I went out, answered the call. It was a telephone assignment, so I made the telephone call and I came back in. Well, what they did was there was 3 of us, eating supper. They took my straw out of my soda. They dipped it in the Tabasco sauce, pinched it off, and put it back into my drink. Now, apparently, when I walked in, all these people are like looking at me just around to where we were sitting. And it was like, why is people looking at me?
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm eating, and all at once I take the sip of my, soda.
Straight Tabasco.
Oh my God. And I'm like, and it was like everybody in the restaurant started laughing. Here they knew, people. They screwed with me. And it's like, and so there, I couldn't even hardly eat my rest of my meal because my freaking throat's on fire. And it went down into my stomach, and I'm just like about half sick because the whole straw was Tabasco sauce.
So how'd you get them back?
Well, here, after we got done eating, the one officer had his keys laying on the table. I took his keys and walked out and jumped in my car. So I'm thinking, I got you. So I locked the door and I had the windows up and I'm like waving the keys at him.
Yeah.
So all at once he says, give me my keys. Like, nope. So I started to pull ahead a little bit and, and I had his keys.
Yeah.
So I was going to leave. Well, so anyways, I ended up putting my window down a little bit. And, once I says, buddy, you're not getting your keys. This is payback. You're going to have to get them down the road, So joking with him that I was going to drive off and set his keys down. And he would have to walk down the road to get his keys. Well, I didn't notice, but he took his mace out of the pouch.
Oh, my God.
He dosed me with mace through the crack of the window inside the police car. I had it in drive. I jump out of the car and the car starts drifting across the parking lot at the diner, and I'm like, holy shit, and I'm like running after the car, hawking and coughing and my eyes are burning, and I jump in and I slam the car in the park, and here we thought that the car was going to keep drifting across and hit other cars in the parking lot. Well, so anyways, he got his keys back.
He fucking maced you.
Yeah.
What a dick. There's a level to this shit, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, it's shit that you can't do nowadays.
You can't fucking mace a guy in front of... Well, especially... There's all these people watching...
In the parking lot. Yeah, and the car's going across the parking lot.
So no calls, no complaints about this?
No. People laugh about it back then. Hell, we were telling the stories that other people, the chief that was way back then, he would laugh about it.
Holy shit.
So, but...
Fucking Mace, that guy's a dick.
Yeah. So, I mean, and Mace was funny because, we always screwed with each other with the Mace. I'm sitting in my office, and this was when I was the detective, and we would open up the windows, and, the one sergeant's office was, like, side by side to mine. Well, what he did, he reached out his window and he sprayed it down into my window, not knowing, and the breeze is coming in, and all at once I'm like, and I couldn't breathe and everything. Here, he maced me from his window outside down into my window, and then I hear him laughing. It's like, you bastards. Like, they all, we screwed with each other, but they really screwed with me because I guess I was easy.
It sounds like it. Yeah. Jesus, dude. It sounds like you didn't get anybody.
No. I did a little bit, but I mean, not like they got me.
No.
It was pretty bad.
I can't believe you got fucking maced.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the things, like, you're pulling up to a call, and you just think, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, what are some of those stories, like, where you're like, I can't believe I'm actually witnessing what I'm seeing here?
Oh my God, like Lake Onalani, okay?
Yeah.
Was known for homosexuals, okay? Big hangout. That's all he did,
Is it still that way?
Oh my God. Well, yeah, over on Maiden Creek Road, they like to hang out, but we don't get the calls like, we used to.
Yeah.
I mean, you would catch a guy doing another guy on a picnic table, or they were giving each other oral sex and, shit like that. So we were sending undercover guys in, to do undercover stuff.
Yeah.
But I could tell you stories, but I'd rather be reserved on all that. But it's like, what the hell, But then you would get people, guy, girl, having sex. Like, I couldn't believe it. One day I'm going down Bowers Road, right exactly by Lake Onalani at the dam breast. Uh-huh. And I see this motorcycle parked. So I go up here. Two people, buck-ass naked, going at it, And it was like, and I even blew the horn.
Yeah.
And I rolled down the window, I go, yo, and they keep on going. I had to get out of the car. Well, here they are, they're into it. Well, then they nonchalantly get up, get dressed, and, and this is something that really got me, and it was like, holy shit, I could have been killed. The guy actually had a loaded handgun underneath his helmet, right there, right where they were at. Yeah. So it was like, so these things, you just never know when something was going to, pop up, literally.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. So did you ever get in a confrontation when it was with anybody where you're like, oh shit, well, I guess if this ends up being it, well, here we are.
There was a lot of incidents that, you had to fight with, somebody, putting them under arrest. I mean, there's been so many times, but nothing drastically. And
solo confrontation like that, what's the adrenaline like? Because, I mean, I know it from a correction standpoint where it's a little more controlled environment, where it's the one-on-one and it's you or them, and it's never going to be you. So,
right.
And I'm sure, like, you're out on the street, so you're dealing with guys that are jacked and bigger than you and stuff like that. And I mean, you have tools to deal with that a little bit, but
right.
But
not like it was back years ago. We didn't have the tasers.
Yeah.
As soon as you pull that taser out, normally people will comply because I think I'd rather be shot by a gun than getting hit with that damn taser.
I've heard that, and then I see the people on PCP that do fucking nothing. It actually makes it worse. They say.
Yep.
Yeah. What I heard cops used to do back in the day, this is the funniest way I've heard it said, was they'd use the old wood shampoo. That's what they call it, the old wood shampoo. But I mean, were there any confrontations where you're like, this guy fucking has me right now? Do you ever take a loss out there?
I don't ever remember me taking a loss.
No.
I would fight if I was into that situation. I would fight really dirty.
Yeah.
And I remember, like the one point that I actually, hit the guy, right square in the nuts.
Yeah.
And just that's what you had to do back then.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get fucked up or killed.
Because back then, you were out by yourself, and you had could be 10 minutes. Or more until another officer would get to you because, you were so spread out. You were by yourself.
So what's that situation like then? I mean, obviously you're probably in fear for your life.
Fear for your life, but then when you get somebody under control, but then you take them at gunpoint, a lot of people always complied. I never had anybody that, I can't ever say I really had anybody that tried to take my gun. Maybe one, but I mean, he didn't get it out of the holster or anything like that, but...
Do you think people have that misconception about when they see videos online, like they'll see a cop or a couple cops, and they'll be kind of putting some work in on a guy, but what they don't understand is that before what they're seeing right there, 99% of the time those officers were in some real legit danger, and that's what was needed to, like, do you think they don't understand that it's not only, you're not going to just always use your academy taught holds and things like that, like, sometimes you gotta fucking fight.
Oh yeah.
And people don't realize, they're punching him. Yeah, that's what happens. Like, that's
right. Just
what it is.
Listen, we go out every day, and we put our life on the line. We know that when we take the job.
Sure.
But we want to go home at the end of that shift. Mm-hmm. And now the way things are happening, like for instance, the two state troopers back in November of 17 up on 33 when they had the African American male that was fighting with them, and the one trooper was huge. I mean, big compared to that guy. And here both the troopers was fighting with that guy. That guy ended up putting a good tussle with these two troopers, got away, went up around the car, reached in, pulled the gun, and shot those troopers. Mm-hmm. That's the shit. It's like we want to go home, mm-hmm. and those guys, they've tried fighting with them. They tased them.
Twice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's the next thing that you have to do?
Right.
Shoot them, but then you don't want to shoot them because you know why?
Well, that's the next
then you
thing.
have to worry about, oh my God, are they going to criminally charge me? And everything. It's just like the South Whitehall cop with the guy up near Dorney Park just recently.
Yeah, that one's crazy.
I as a chief, I feel bad for that guy.
I feel horrible for that guy.
I actually back him. I support him, but I truly do because. Listen, he has more training from him being in the military. He was a major, mm-hmm. And being active with the military, being over fighting in the war. He has more training than what we will ever have probably. And, you know, he's trained over there, those guys in the military, you know, because the freaking Unabombers and all that shit that want to strap explosive on, you don't know when they're going to get shot. But when you tell somebody to stop over there and they don't, and they keep coming at you, what's going to happen? They're going to get shot.
Yeah.
You know, here, what, you know, when you tell somebody to stop after, you know, what this guy did,
jumping
you
on
know,
cars,
exactly,
on windows,
exactly,
jumped on the police officer's car.
So, you know, if he's doing that, you know that he's high.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you're telling him to stop, and he keeps coming.
Yep.
He's going to hurt you.
Yeah, he ain't looking to shake your hand.
You know, how do you know that he doesn't have some type of, like judo or, you know, karate, anything right. that, you know, any martial arts that one hit, you're knocked out.
Right.
I know, because listen, I mean, I went through training to try to, you know, to protect, you know, that somebody don't get your gun. And this one instructor, you know, he had so many martial arts. He was good. I mean, he was a fighter. Right. He says, "Do you think I can take your gun?" And I go, "No, you can't." And he hit me open hand right up on my forehead, knocked me the hell out. And when I woke up, he had my gun in his hand.
Wow.
And it was like, it happened that quick. So that's the thing, you know, but you know, you have that safety zone.
Right.
And if somebody's coming at you and you tell them to stop, I'm sorry. I'll totally back that guy 110%.
I agree with you too. Because, again, and all you see on social media and all kinds of stuff is, that officer should have been trained better to deal with that. And like to your point, the guy was in the military.
Correct.
What other training does the guy need?
But we go through training. We have to, you know, the officers in Pennsylvania have to go through mandatory training every year. And believe it or not, we go over all these type of scenarios. And every officer that is working wants to go home because they have family, they have loved ones, they have friends. You know, they are human. So, you know, it's totally different nowadays. It's totally different. And it's sad because I feel that a lot of times these officers that are getting shot, hurt on the job, is because they are afraid to act on an incident, that they're afraid that they're going to lose their job, or they're going to get sued or charged criminally for, you know, excessive use of force.
Yeah, absolutely. Most likely, you're going to hesitate.
Yep.
You're going to hesitate, and that second hesitation, thinking about, oh shit, can I do this? There's your life.
Yeah.
You're done. Body cams. Do you guys use body cams at all?
We don't use body cams yet. We will be getting body cams.
What do you think about them?
I think we should have them.
I love them.
Yep.
Because what it's done, what you see a lot of is everybody, all right, now we're going to catch these dirty cops out there. Well, what you see the majority of the time is the cops are 100% justified in what they're doing. Boy, did that backfire.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you go to an incident, that officer knows there's a body camera on. But you know what? When that adrenaline's pumping, you don't even think about that damn body camera. You don't think about somebody having a cell phone in their hand recording. You're there to deal with it, and your adrenaline's pumping. You don't think anything other than freaking getting that guy or woman or whatever under control and, you know, in custody. You know, it's about stopping the threat.
Right.
Then it's afterwards that it's like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have done that. This is when you second guess yourself, but you shouldn't be. You know, it's
you did what you had to do.
Exactly.
And that a lot of people that have never been in any corrections job, they just don't fucking get it.
No,
they have no idea what it is. Well, you should have talked to him. Oh, really? As he's trying to rip my face off.
Right.
What's that going to do? I mean, people that are going to. Like, you take a situation where certain people don't like you just because you're a police officer. It doesn't matter what you say. You're not going to change that person's mind. So the talking and everything, well, they should be trained in de-escalation skill. Shut the hell up.
Yeah. We go through all that
I know, and I know this. And that's why I'm trying to make the point. Everybody's trained in that already. That's part of the training process. That's what everybody goes through. But when you're in the situation, you don't know what that cop's thinking. you don't know what happened 10 seconds before the video started.
Correct.
Everybody's a Facebook lawyer, or my favorite is the traffic stop lawyer. Did you? I don't know if you had this when you were a patrolman or anything like that, or before you made detective. But now everybody wants to roll down their window and cite why you're doing something wrong and you shouldn't be talking to them.
Right.
So do you guys have to actually go through different training nowadays to deal with the different pushback from society in general?
Well, we do training. We do training on traffic stops. We'll run through different scenarios.
Has it changed, I guess is what I'm asking.
No, I don't think it's really changed. I think it's all the same. I mean, we do what we do. I mean, there's nothing. The only thing that has changed is we are more cautious when we're approaching a vehicle now.
Sure.
But nothing's changed other than that. It's just...
All right, I got to ask you a question. What is the... All right, you say you go through training every year, right? You re-up, not re-up, but you review, I'm assuming, different training.
We have to go through mandatory training.
And what does that include?
It's 2 days that you have to go through mandatory training. You get updated crimes code, vehicle code, and then there's it can be any other training. Like for instance, let's see, like stuff like body cameras.
Okay. So what I want to know is why hasn't this ever been implemented? Or maybe it hasn't, I don't know about it. You always see that one gigantic fat cop.
Yep.
Why is there not a physical test?
There should be.
I agree.
But
what's that guy going to do? If anything, he's putting people in jeopardy if he's working with somebody.
You're right. That's a liability.
Yeah.
And
or she.
Yeah, or she.
Yeah.
But you look back, there were fat cops.
It's not new. No. It's not new. I'm just curious.
But you think it should be, because now I think there should be standards.
Yes.
And and a lot of times they won't put standards in there because of lawsuits. That's what it is.
Are the numbers hurting nowadays? Is that what you think some of the standard isn't there for? Because it's harder to get police officers?
Well, it's not really hard to get police officers.
Well, you just said
what's hard is to get the elected officials to spend money to get police officers. That's the thing. It's not about... There's a ton of people, and we are going to be currently hiring again coming up. And, I have a list. I probably have about 20 more people on this list that, I can go off of. There's plenty of people out there that want to work and do the job.
So you haven't seen that change with the kind of negative cultural association with policing and...
No, it's just, believe it or not, it's harder to become a cop now than it ever has. To me, back whenever I started, I think it was, I think it would have been easy to become a cop. I was fortunate.
Well, what changed? Just the training and the testing and things like that has gotten more difficult, or
testing?
Yeah,
I know testing is a lot harder, but the cost of the police academy, things like that. It's still like the little things, but it's harder to get. Like I said, it's harder to get hired because there isn't that many openings out there for as many people that's going through the academies.
So let's move on to I guess the light at the end of the tunnel for Brian. Chief of Northern Berks Regional Police. You were detective sergeant, and from what I read, I did a little bit of research. You were in a meeting.
Yep.
And you said, "I'm your guy.
Yep.
I should be the guy. To be the man, you got to beat the man. That guy's out the door. I'm the new guy." How did that go down?
Well, when I announced that I wanted to be the chief, apparently I pissed off some people.
That's what the article said.
Yes. And they said that I took the wrong approach, but I wanted to make it aware that I was there because I wanted to do the job.
So where did you announce this?
No, I announced it right during one of our police commission meetings. Right in an open meeting. Put it on the record and everything else. The news media was there.
Yes, they were.
They met with me even afterwards, and it just, filtered from there to, all over on Facebook and, just all over. And, I didn't have, some of the commission and supervisors from other municipalities or councilmen, there were some elected officials, put it that way, that didn't want me. They didn't think that I could do the job. But I pushed. I had business people. I had citizens. I had my guys, a lot of my guys in the department that were pushing for me, and elected officials throughout Pennsylvania. I had so many people, it was unbelievable, judges, so I dumped them with letters, people writing letters. I
did my small social media part. So I think I should get a cut.
Absolutely. I agree. And that's where it came down to. And plus I proved it, since I have done the job. I've done more than I said that I would do. And I told the commission, these are my goals. And I've already succeeded the goals that I told them, and plus a lot more. And I haven't even been chief yet for 2 years.
Right.
And I told them it would take 2 years to make the changes that I was recommending, and we did it probably all in about a year. And I say we, not me, we, because when I told the guys in the department, it's a new beginning. When I took over as chief, that's what I said. It's going to be a new beginning because things were going to change to the positive. It was going to be a lot more public relations, getting out there in the community, doing a lot of things that we didn't do that we should have done. And we did policy changes. The sergeants backed me 110%. They're my backbone. I rely on them, and my secretary. She is phenomenal. And we had made a lot of positive changes to help the community, to better the department, better the community. And I'm going to continue doing it because I said, if I ever slack off, I want somebody to come up and punch me in the head, because I don't want to be that chief that will allow that department to go backwards. I want to move forward. And when I, presented everything, I said, listen, I want our department to be the best of the best in the county. And so I sold myself to the commissioners. They had a meeting that came down to 2 state troopers and myself, and it was a decision that the commission had to make, and they ended up then going with me. And
that's awesome.
And here we are.
Absolutely awesome. So when you're coming in there now, you said your sergeants backed you from day one.
Correct.
Was there any kind of weird looks from anybody else in the department when that can be tough because one day you're working on the same level as certain people, and then the next day you're not.
At the very beginning, no. But has the honeymoon been over? Yes.
Yeah, sure. People are not comfortable now.
Well, I hold everybody accountable. I have no favorites. I told it, them when I took over, even before chief, when they put me in as an acting chief when the previous chief retired. I said to the guys, listen, everybody is going to be treated equal. There's not going to be favorites. Everybody's going to do their job. Everybody's going to be held accountable. I said this job is going to be a teamwork, because team is together, each achieves more. I stress that more than once. I still say it. I'm not going to micromanage a department. You can't as a chief. You have to delegate.
Sure.
And I have delegated so much to my sergeants, to the secretary, to some officers. I'm proud to say that I delegate. I'm not, embarrassed, because I can't do it all. But there's some that, chiefs and everything in the past and that were micromanagers that just couldn't let things go. And I'm not like that.
Right.
So
what things to the positive? What were some of the things that you didn't like that you're like, oh, okay, we need to change this, and then you made the positive change?
For instance, we ended up getting better equipment, a lot more equipment for the guys. We ended up changing our uniforms a little bit. to make us recognized as police officers, because you look out there, EMS personnel on the ambulance and paramedics are wearing bulletproof vests now.
Yeah.
So there were times that you go to a scene, how can you pick out a cop from a paramedic when they have a lot of gear too that they wear? So I ended up, making sure that we were identified better. We ended up changing the graphics on our cars, to be more visible that we are police, and I make sure that the cars are lit up a lot more. Where the positive changes have come in the department to better the department, I'm making the guys work. Actually, I'm a worker. I expect them to work. If I make traffic stops, I make them do traffic stops. Am I telling them to go out and write tickets? Hell no.
Right.
I don't care if they write a ticket, but you know what? If somebody's going down the road, they have a headlight out, tail light out, pull them over, warn them. It's good PR. It's good. Hey, just pulling you over because you have a light out, headlight out. Did you know that? Or a tail light? If not, hey, get that fixed. Give them a 5-day card, in case they get stopped by somebody else. It's
100%. I feel great about that traffic stop if I'm the one getting pulled over.
Yeah.
If you just go, hey, get that fixed, man, instead of coming down on somebody about it, that 100% is awesome.
Right. I mean, you don't have to, just because, somebody commits a violation doesn't mean you have to, issue a citation.
Right.
If it's somebody that's definitely intentionally committing a traffic violation, knows, like we had this guy the other day going 81 miles an hour up 61 on a 45. Sorry, you're getting a ticket. You're not getting a break. You know what you're doing, things like that. But, somebody, like 15 miles an hour over, I don't care if the officer cuts this person the brake and give them a verbal warning, written warning. I don't care. Listen, I speed. Everybody.
Sure, everybody does.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's perfect. So what I want the guys out there making traffic stops, having the cars lit up so people know, hey, the police are out here.
Right.
Deters crime. It deters traffic violations. It saves lives. So,
absolutely.
That was one thing that, we instituted. We actually redone our whole entire SOPs, our standard operating procedures.
Oh,
It was so old. God, I'll tell you what, it's a wonder that we didn't, have somebody that tried to sue us, because they were so outdated. They're all current now. So it's like just a lot. Things like that. We had our first national night out ever.
I saw that on Facebook. Did you wait? You actually suit? I saw you in uniform again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do. And listen, today I was in uniform. Yesterday I was in uniform.
Oh, yeah?
I made a traffic stop today. Listen, I will not forget where I came from. I'll be right out there helping the guys. Listen, I'm a chief. Yeah. Well, chiefs, the people say chiefs shouldn't be doing that. No. We're a smaller department. I should be out there, because if I expect my guys to do something like make traffic stops, I'm going to go out there and make traffic stops too. I want to show them if I'm asking you to do it, I'm going to do it.
I'm not going to ask you to do something that I wouldn't do.
Exactly. So they're a lot of them are good with that. Some have issues because I'm making them work, because it's not like, I want to come in and just ride around and wait for a call. You have that in every department. You have good cops that are energetic and want to do the job, and other ones that, they come in and they just want to get paid.
Let's get through the day. Let me put my years in and then ride out.
Yep. No, that's not going to happen in my department. Everybody's going to be held accountable. You're all making the same money. You're all going to do the same job.
Right.
If somebody wants to, go above and beyond, they're going to get recognized for that.
Right.
They're going to get attaboys and, things like that. So, but, that's been the big change. But, like I said, the first national night out that we had, we never had that out of, all the years, out of 31 years going on, that I was never ever involved in a national night out.
Right. Our
Our first one that we did this year, we put it all together in 3 months, and we probably had the biggest turnout in Berks County. And considering that it poured, it rained, and everything else, we had anywhere between 12 to 1,500 people that showed up, and then we had an awesome fireworks display at the end of the night because of the rain.
That's huge for community relations. It's got to be huge.
Oh, it's huge. And next year, I mean, it was such a good turnout, and everybody. I've talked to people. I just talked to a guy just 2 days ago. Said, hey, I attended your national night out. He goes, I didn't expect it to be as good as it was, and that made me feel good. And I said, you think that it was good this year? Wait till next year, because I'm going to double it, and it's going to be better. So
awesome. So, in closing, is there any message you want to put out there? Anything you want to say regarding Northern Berks Regional Police or Police and Community Relations, or just a message in general that you want to have it put out there?
I just want to tell everybody, listen, please don't look at every officer as, a bad egg. When you get that dozen eggs and, one of them's cracked or one of them's spoiled, and you don't throw the rest of that, eggs away. Don't throw us away out of your life and thinking that all of us are bad, because we're not. It's anywhere. You're going to have good people. You're going to have bad people. And unfortunately, there are some officers out there that, turned out to be bad cops, but don't let that affect you. I'm just asking, the people to look at us and look at the job that we have to deal with, and look how times have changed from 20 years ago to 15 to 10 and 5, and look at the future ahead. People are saying things are getting worse. It's going to get worse, but we need people in the community to back us for helping the community by protecting the community, protecting people. Look at the school shootings, and we're the ones that's going to protect your butt. It's like who else is going to do it? And that's the only thing. I want people to support the police. Show the respect. Go up, thank a cop. Just like how we go up and we thank the military. I have very high respect for the people that's in the military nowadays, because they're not home with their families, or they're away, and they have it rough. There's times that you go away in the military, and the military will tell you, that this is the way it's going to be, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get a chance to talk to your family for a month.
It is what it is. You're there.
Exactly. So, we show the military the respect, and, I just want people to, respect the police and, stand by us. And, and my big thing is, with my community that we cover, I will make sure that the people know that we are there to, help them, support them in any way, to give back, but, we want that in return. And I think that, the first, national night out we had definitely shows that things are definitely changing with the support.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get that community support. All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks,
Appreciate
buddy.
you being on the show, man.
Hey, it's
awesome.
been good. Thanks.
Hey everybody, that was Brian Horner, Police Chief of Northern Berks Regional Police Department. Great show, great talking to him, good friend of mine. Don't be afraid to like and share our Facebook page, I'm Just Saying, with Justin Werley on Facebook. Check us out on Podbean, check us out on Stitcher, check us out on YouTube, check us out on Twitter. It's all under Justin Werley. It's not really that complicated. It's not that serious. Just look me up. My face is my livelihood. Check me out on Instagram. My wonderful fiance runs that for me. Posts everything up there because I'm illiterate. I think that just means I can't read. I don't know that matters about the internet, but I can't do it. Let's just leave it at that. Anyway, another great episode. Thanks everybody for listening. Take care. Have a great weekend. Later.
Nobody now give you no break. Police now give you no break. That old soldier man I give you no break. Not even